Well, hello. It's coming to the end of the second full day of sailing. We're probably about an hour away from sunset. I have to tell you, what a frustrating day. There are a few things quite so frustrating for sailors as a day, or quite so long as a day without wind. And this was a day without wind. The forecast was for 13 to 15 knots from 285 from the west, and in fact what I had was 6 to 8 knots all day from the southwest, and that's a bit concerning because the forecast is only one day old and the forecast is already wrong. Boy, what have I got ahead of me? So anyway, that was it's a bit disappointing. I tried 3 or 4 times with different configurations of sail. It just isn't enough wind. With 8 knots of wind, this boat will do 3 knots, 3.5 knots. You know, if you have 800 miles to go, you can't do them at 3 knots. I mean, it just takes forever. So I've been running the engine all day, and that's frustrating. Nobody likes to do that. The smell of diesel, it's using this precious resource, which is a diesel as well. So, but I had no choice. So all day long, I've been motoring. There's just the slightest hint of an increase of wind now, so maybe tonight things will get better, and I won't hesitate to throw the sails up later if the wind improves. I wanted to show you, it wasn't a total washout. I mean, I saw some whales. I even filmed a couple. I don't know if it'll show up. They were quite shy when they got close. I could see them spouting, but when they got close, they dived and they dove and disappeared, which is actually a good thing. You know, I'm not a big fan of these whale tours because these whales need to understand that humans are their enemies, not their friends at all. So the more frightened or nervous we make them, the better, I think. So anyway, so I saw a few whales. That was encouraging. Lots of dolphins as usual, but no wind. Now I wanted to show you something that happened yesterday, because this was something I hadn't really anticipated. You see this device right here? This pulley system is used to ease or sheet in or ease out the boom to adjust the sails. And yesterday, when we had wonderful conditions, 15, 17 knots abeam, it was just delightful to sail yesterday. All of a sudden, this thing right here was floating out in space. You know what happened? You see this shackle right here? The shackle had come undone. It did not break, but there's a pin that holds it that screws in, and the pin had just unscrewed. And that's amazing, because it takes about 10 or 12 turns to screw it in, you know. So it goes to show you that on board a sailing boat, that I'm sure that was left over. It was from the storm I went through last week, that it had been 3/4 of the way undone, and yesterday it just came completely undone. So you can see what I did is I went around the boat and I put everywhere where I saw one of these things, I put a little those plastic lock on them to try to secure them a little better. And there's a half dozen. Now, that wasn't the first time this has happened on this boat. It's the first time ever. I've never had that happen before, and it's happened 3 times on this trip. The thing with the blue line on it there, that's a boom brake. You can see I put the plastic thing in there as well. That came undone 2 days ago. It came and just fell with a clang. And when I was in the big storm coming into Horta, the topping lift is that line that holds up the boom, holds up the back end of the boom. The topping lift came undone. The topping lift did not break. The line did not part. The shackle came undone, and it had a pin, a slightly different kind of a pin. For those of you who are used to this stuff, it's that kind that fits in a slot and turns 90 degrees. Well, that came undone. And so I was in the storm, I'm watching the topping lift fly out and do its wonderful things, acrobatics, to end up finally stuck up at the top of the mast up there. And when I was in Horta, I had to go up the mast to retrieve it and pull it back down. So a lesson there. In aviation, wherever there's something like that, we use safety wire. You wire it. But I'm a little hesitant to do that on a boat, because on a boat, you know, the wire itself can then become a source of friction well, you know, I'm just nervous about that. So instead, let me see how these plastic tie things work, and if they're secure enough, then I'll make that one on my checklist before ever I go out. You know, is to go around and I must have put a good half dozen of them on today. You know, including the main halyard. You know, so that they can't come undone. So that was a lesson for today, and a bit of a surprise. I wasn't expecting that. I've done a fair amount of sailing, including in rough weather, and I've never had that happen. And here's 3 instances in the same period. Wow. Well, okay. Time for a quick bite of dinner, and then let's hope we get some wind. You know, I'd like to have a nice breeze all night long here, so driving me closer to home. Okay, I'll speak tomorrow morning. There she blows. That is every sailor's nightmare. And I just passed another one off. I saw another one off the starboard side. Those are markers for fishermen's traps of some kind or other, or they could be nets. Some of them, you know, I'm 200 miles from land, so that's certainly been abandoned, or it's just drifting free. But if you pick one of those up in the middle of the night in your propeller, wow. And I have a good friend who, in these waters here, not far from the Azores, he picked up an entire net, a fish net, drifting fish net, and he spent 24 hours hooked up to that thing, drifting in the water, trying to haul it in and cut it away and haul it in. It was reinforced with wire and everything. He really had a heck of a time, and finally got himself free after 24 hours. So that's really scary stuff. That's why I don't like to run the engine any more than I absolutely have to, because hopefully if your screw is not turning, the prop is not turning, it might just hit the keel and bounce off, or slow you down, but it won't be all wrapped around things. But if you have your screws turning, the prop, well, might as well get the mask and fins out. So that's what I don't like to see, and it's kind of scary because I'm a good 200 miles from land out here, so there's no one out there fishing. That was just drifting. Well, so now you know, when you go along in coastal waters, you have to be on a constant lookout for them. That's why the spray hood, when I'm coastal waters by myself, I put it down just to improve the chances of me seeing it, seeing some threat like that, because it can ruin your whole day. Anyway, enough for now.